today. Sign up for Visa Checkout. Visa, everywhere you want to be.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into First Take. Hope your morning is starting off well. Your boys are here. Skip Bayless is in studio with me, Molly Karen, Stephen A. joining us from the city of brotherly love. Hello, gentlemen.
Good morning. How y'all doing? You know, Mr. Smith, today, as I was getting dressed, I almost put some eye black under my eyes because I think we're going to have some good battles today.
I keep trying to tell you, you're doing the public a disservice when you bring it up, when you act like that's an aberration.
Yeah.
That's what we do every day.
Oh.
Stop selling us short,
Yeah,
man.
I won't. I was just actually selling you short, but that's okay.
Oh, we're already starting.
Yeah.
I'm so surprised.
Yeah.
I'm so surprised.
You guys ready to work? Let's roll.
Always. Let's
Coming
go.
up, Cam Newton's favorite weapon is done for the season. Unfortunate news. Can the Panthers still three-peat as division winners without Kelvin Benjamin? Plus, find out who Yankees GM Brian Cashman preferred at shortstop over the captain Derek Jeter. But first, let's get you caught up on the latest in the Tom Brady-Roger Goodell case. Judge Richard Berman said Wednesday that Tom Brady and Roger Goodell need to come up with a settlement on their own, and if they do not, he wants them back in court on August 31st, and he'll settle it for them. Judge Berman hopes to rule by September 4th. That would be just 6 days before the Patriots season opener. Berman used Wednesday's hearing to ask many of the questions raised by critics of the league's 4-game suspension levied against Brady. Specifically, Goodell comparing Brady's suspension to steroid use. So if Tom Brady's appeal is not settled and Berman has not yet ruled on the case, his suspension will start on September 5th, according to our Sal Palantonio. Stephen A., we begin with you. What should Brady do at this point?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Brady should find a way to reach a settlement, no matter what it takes, because in the end, the objective for him should be about serving as minimal amount of games of a suspension as possible. If you can eradicate the 4-game suspension, so be it. But if you have no snowball's chance in hell of pulling that off, then it's really about the business of getting the least amount of a suspension as you can possibly pull off and moving forward from there. Because as it pertains to his name, his legacy, the court of public opinion, they've already made their judgment. Some people are going to believe he lied and he participated, whether tacitly, directly, or otherwise. They're going to believe that he had something to do with it, and there's a large segment of the population that either believes he did not have anything to do with it, or they simply don't care because they believe this is much ado about nothing. So you're not going to change the court of public opinion. It is going to be what it is. So really, this is about him and the Players Association against Roger Goodell and the National Football League. And it's now time to gauge the plausibility of you diminishing the amount of a 4-game suspension. If you know that you're not going to pull off completely eradicating it and say you're going to have to settle for a 1-game or a 2-game suspension, then go ahead and do it. I'm totally with Brady if he is innocent in acknowledging, look, I'm not going to admit that I did something that I didn't do. So I don't mind him being dogmatic in any way when it comes to Roger Goodell and the NFL's insistence that he validate and authenticate the Ted Wells investigation. But what did the Ted Wells investigation essentially say, Skip Bayless? It essentially said, more probable than not, that he knew something about what was going on with the footballs. That's basically what it said. Now, Roger Goodell and Troy Benson and those guys may have reached the conclusion that there's no way that Tom Brady didn't know anything. But the specific request on the part of the National Football League was that Brady acquiesced to the Ted Wells investigation, which said it's more probable than not that he knew something. In other words, it's impossible that you knew absolutely positively nothing about what was going on with the deflated footballs. And I think that if you want to play football, that's a small price to pay to acknowledge that you might have known something. You might have heard about the footballs. You might have known that Bill Belichick wanted to deflate the footballs or whatever the case may be. But that's about it. And I understand Tom Brady wants to sit there and fight for his name. All of us would. I certainly would be highly reluctant to concede anything, particularly in the realm of guilt. But at the same time, what we're talking about here is something that he simply can't change. There are people who are going to believe he knew, There are others who are going to say we don't care. There are others who are going to believe he knew nothing. You're not changing that. So the ultimate goal here is to make sure you minimize the suspension to the best of your ability. And I think that's the direction that Tom Brady should go in. He should look at things that way instead of being dogmatic in his approach towards innocence, because there are no innocent parties here. Everybody is guilty of something, so and that includes Tom Brady.
Let me get this straight. So you're saying he should fight for his name, but on the other hand, a lot of people are just going to believe what they already believe, and in the end, you're saying Tom Brady should admit guilt and take a 2-game suspension, right?
He should admit guilt from the perspective he had something to do with things getting to this point. I believe because he was uncooperative. But again, they're not talking about Roger Goodell's assertion. They're not talking about Troy Vincent's assertion, because they were more direct in their incrimination towards Tom Brady. The Ted Wells report said it's more probable than not that you knew something. Tom Brady knew absolutely positively nothing? That's very hard to believe.
No, it's not. I'm here to tell you that everything you just said, in my view, is ASA 9, ASA 10, ASA 11, and speaking of Tom Brady, ASA 12, because 12's reputation is hanging in the balance right here, right now. And by all accounts, yesterday, Tom Brady is winning. I think, and this is just my view, I think he's winning slowly but surely in the court of public opinion. But in Judge Berman's court yesterday, as I said after the first session, and there have been 2 so far, I said after the first session, Tom Brady beat Roger Goodell 21-7. Yesterday, by all accounts, not my account, everybody else's accounts, people who were there, people who tweeted about it and followed it very closely, Tom Brady won 28-7. So that's a combined 49-14 victory in Judge Berman's court so far for Tom Brady. And again, the judge pointed out yesterday, he questioned the validity of the evidence, the validity of the procedure, how fair it was for Roger Goodell to oversee the appeals process. We've been through all this before. And then he went to what a quantum leap he could not understand of how it went all the way to a 4-game suspension, which is equal to a PED suspension for Tom Brady with no direct evidence. So again, the NFL took another beating in Judge Berman's court. Now you can argue back to me, he's just trying to goad the NFL into some sort of settlement. And you can argue back to me that he's trying to goad the Brady camp into a settlement by dropping a hint that, oh, gee, I might not be able to rule on this as quickly as we all think. I know my goal is September 4th, but it could take longer. Dropping the hint and the possibility that Tom Brady would have to start serving his suspension while the judge took his time into October to rule on this case. But clearly, Brady's side hasn't yet asked for an injunction. And this is way over my head, Stephen A. I don't even know what the possibilities here are, but it seems like you could get an injunction granted where he could start playing on September 10th on opening Sunday and keep playing until you have a decision, even if that decision comes from the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, where this case, I believe, has been headed from the start. So in the end, it's about, as you pointed out, your good name. That's all you got in the end. Tom Brady's got 4 Super Bowl rings. He's okay in that department. I think he could improve in that department. But right now, it's about his name. And right now, it's about an owner who sold him out initially. Bob Kraft sold him out. I sat right here and told you that. Now, he eventually reversed field and said, I shouldn't have trusted the NFL, but a lot of damage got done, and he accepted the penalties for the team's sake, the draft choices, and the big fine. Bill Belichick has never publicly defended Tom Brady for a second here. He's been careful to avoid all this. Remember that first press conference he did before the Super Bowl? Ask Tom. I don't know anything about football. Ask Tom. It's all on 12. It's his reputation, and he's starting to fight back and get it back because Roger Goodell picked on the wrong superstar. He didn't get all shucks Tom Brady that I think he thought he was going to get. He got Psycho Tom right between the eyes. You know it, and I know it. I've told you from the start, Brady will fight this to the legal death. The legal death. And that's what's going on here.
Fine.
It doesn't matter.
Well, you know what, Skip? there's one thing that's an absolute certainty in life, and that is we all shall die someday. And this legal debt that you're talking about, that you keep sitting there and pounding the pavement and investing yourself as if your name is Tom Brady, let me tell you something right now. Tom Brady could potentially fall in all of this. He could very well see his own legal debt. So be it. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, whether he wins or loses, to be quite honest with you. But the point that you need to understand is this. The judge, according to those that have been witnessing the case, there is no doubt the judge has been all over the NFL, that he's been a bit more probing, highly spectacle and inquisitive and suspect on the NFL. All of that is true. But all the reports from reporters in Boston, nationwide, it doesn't matter. They all say, quote, the judge sees legitimacy on both sides of the argument, which means that he hasn't summarily dismissed where the NFL is coming from. So what does that do? Now we go to that CBA, because this process is not about Brady's innocence or guilt. It's about the power that the commissioner has, which I have said ad nauseum. So if it's because of the power of the commissioner, anything that extends beyond this is not about the innocence or guilt of Tom Brady. It's about whether or not the commissioner has the right to exercise the authority that he has exercised in this matter. That's what this is. You keep saying that Tom Brady is fighting for his name. I'm telling you, Tom Brady is fighting to play. Tom Brady doesn't give a damn if people think he's innocent or guilty. Tom Brady just wants to play for week 1. That's what Tom Brady is after. He is trying to play. And I told you, come hell or high water, Tom Brady's going to miss some games. You can book that. It's no way on earth that he's going to play every game and never sit down unless the court is willing to allow Tom Brady to set a new precedent that's going to open the floodgates for arbitrated decisions to ultimately reach federal courts, to the point where they're going to flood the federal courts with all of these cases, which is exactly what the federal courts don't want to do. This is not about Tom Brady's guilt or innocence. This is about a court system that has to make the decision as to whether or not they want Tom Brady to usurp decades of precedent, all right, because he's Tom Brady. If he pulls that off, then you know what? I will stop calling the Aaron Rodgers the bad man forevermore. I will transition to Tom Brady being that dude, because he's going to pull off something that I can't see a football player pulling off, and that's usurping the authority of the commissioner's office to this point. I can't see it.
Okay, number one, I take great exception to your statement that Tom Brady doesn't give a damn about what people think. Trust me, because I'm hearing from people close to Tom Brady, he gives a whole lot about how he's going to be perceived.
That was you! You said that! You said that for weeks. He doesn't care what people think.
What?
You said that. That wasn't me.
Boy, you haven't been listening.
That's what you said.
I said it's his name. I said he got branded immediately. A cheater and a liar. He cheated and he lied about it. We did topics about how his reputation has been permanently stained.
Outside of the New England fan base, which obviously supports him, Tom Brady doesn't care what people think.
Yes,
Tom Brady wants to play. And
I mean,
he believes he's innocent, and that's it.
If your NFL legacy is that you cheated and lied and that's how it remains, yeah, Tom Brady really, really cares about that. And he really cares that this commissioner chose him to be the fall guy for Spygate/Deflategate. Not Kraft, not Belichick, not the Patriots organization, but Tom Brady. I think I've told you from the front, he was framed for this. He was railroaded by the commissioner into becoming the fall guy for this, and he resents it so deeply. What did I tell you from the start? In Tom Brady's view, this is all about getting the commissioner, maybe even taking him down, costing him his job, because you take away his integrity and credibility in court.
Well, He has the right man for that job because that seems to be the only thing DeMaurice Smith is interested in doing. No question about that, along with Jeffrey Kessler.
That's correct.
So be it. That's their right.
Yeah,
that's their right. But the flip side, Skip Bayless, is this. When you talk about what Tom Brady is interested in, keep in mind that according to the proceedings and according to all the news that we've been hearing, Tom Brady and the Players Association are willing to reach a settlement. He does not want to acknowledge any guilt or any validity to the Ted Wells report, but he is willing to concede that he was to some degree uncooperative. Well, if he was to some degree uncooperative, that means he had something to do with it getting to this point.
Okay, I'll give
he has
you
something
that
to do with it.
But he's not admitting an ounce of guilt about knowing anything about deflating footballs.
Fine. But if you have acknowledged that you were uncooperative and you're willing to concede that, then you not only have something to do with this being where it is in terms of the case, you also have something to do with the commissioner feeling the way that he feels about your guilt. You don't get to dictate how somebody reacts to an act that you caused. If you were uncooperative, you don't get to then sit back and say, well, I know I was uncooperative, but that shouldn't make you believe I'm guilty. No, you don't get to decide how somebody feels about you being uncooperative. Be cooperative, and then you wouldn't have to worry about that. But he didn't do that. Instead, he was uncooperative and then wants to dictate how the commissioner, how the executive VP, Troy Benton, and everybody else is supposed to feel about it. If your behind was cooperative, you wouldn't have to worry about how they're feeling. But instead, you were uncooperative, but now you want to dictate how they're supposed to feel based on your uncooperative tendencies.
No.
That's your fault.
No.
You did that. And that's what Tom Brady has to own. He has to own the fact that he played a role in being responsible for what Commissioner Goodell and the league feels about him. I don't believe he deserves 4 games, Skip. I'm like most other people out here. We want to see Tom Brady play. And a matter of fact, I'm willing to concede that I don't think that he went to somebody and said, I want the deflated footballs less than 12.5 PSI. But if the commissioner and them don't believe that, because you were uncooperative, you have to own the fact that your uncooperative ways led to them thinking this. You own that. You own it.
Okay, so the bottom line here is you are correct about one thing. The odds are, and the precedent is, that whichever court it winds up in, Berman's court or the Court of Appeals, the final ruling will be, but wait a second, the commissioner has the power to do this no matter what. No matter the merits of the case, the commissioner's power prevails. Those are the odds. This is the guy who was once a 6th-round draft choice who has now won 4 Super Bowl rings. If anyone can shatter that precedent, it's number 12. And that's what he is setting about doing right here, right now, with the Michael Jordan of attorneys representing him, Jeffrey Kessler.
And if he doesn't, how good is that going to be for the league? Because keep in mind, everybody ain't Tom Brady. Hold on, let's stay with me. Everyone's not Tom Brady. You're right. But the flip side is the level of diligence and the contentious and dare I say to some degree, belligerent tendencies that are displayed when the NFLPA is going up against the NFL because of DeMaurice Smith and his relationship with Roger Goodell. No labor relations when it comes to those two. You have to keep in mind that everybody ain't Tom Brady. But DeMaurice Smith and the Players Association acts this way with anybody they're representing against Roger Goodell. So be careful what you wish for, because if you luck up and Tom Brady wins this, it could very well be to the detriment of the NFL, because it will be fodder for them to utilize in future fights. The court knows that just as better than I do. So we'll see what happens.
Devastating news for Carolina. Panthers wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin has a torn ACL and will miss the entire season. Benjamin went down in practice Wednesday when he tried to make a cut against Miami defensive back Don Jones on a play in which there was no contact. As a rookie last year, Benjamin was Cam's go-to guy, targeting him more than any other receiver on the Panthers. Only 6 other players were targeted more than Benjamin last season in the entire league. Stephen A., what impact will this have on Cam?
I think it's going to be a devastating blow because I think that I essentially view Carolina as pretty much having two weapons. Him and Greg Olsen, both of them 1,000-yard receivers last year. Olsen, your tight end. Kelvin Benjamin is your primary receiver. They drafted this kid, Devin Funches, but again, you drafted him. He's a rookie. You don't know what he's going to give you. And I'm looking at a 10-kid junior who returned. I'm looking at a couple of the other pieces that they have. They've got guys that, like a Jericho Cotchery or somebody, got to probably have 1 year left. This is the way that they're being viewed. And so when I look at it from that perspective, this offense was clearly going to be about Cam, about Kelvin Benjamin and Greg Olsen. And the fact that Benjamin is down leaves them minus a significant weapon. When you add to that the fact that you got a defense that's no longer ranked number 2 in the entire NFL like it was a few years back. They were 21st last year. I just look at it from the standpoint that Cam really, really has an immense amount of pressure placed on his shoulders, where with the new contract, the pressure of it all and whatever, he's going to literally have to be a do-it-all kind of guy. And it's just a shame that you got a young stud like him with all the capabilities that Cam has, and he's got to be out there on an island essentially by himself with little to no artillery to really have at his disposal. It's just it's an unfortunate situation, to be quite honest with you, and I think that Carolina is going to suffer even more. Remember, they're coming off a 7-8 in one season. They weren't that great to begin with last year, and I'm really wondering what they're going to be able to do now.
I'll give you it's a blow, but I do not think it's a devastating blow. And you mentioned Devin Funches. I'm a fan, and I know he's a rookie, but so is Kelvin Benjamin. Funches every time. Again, you know how I am. I just watch the game, flip back and forth. Every time I flipped on a Michigan game, it seems like for the last 3 years, Funches jumped off my screen. At the combine, he ran 4.7. They said he dropped too many balls over his 3 years. I think he had 20 combined drops. All I know is he just kept making plays, and he's 6'4", 225. Kelvin Benjamin, 6'5", 245. So is he that? No, he's not that. But I think he's going to be pretty good, even as a rookie. I think he'll be pretty good. We all like Greg Olsen. I agree with you, Ted Ginn, Cotchery. You maybe bring in at the end Reggie Wayne. I don't know what they'll do. I assume they have to bring in somebody, one of those veterans still left out on the market. But here's my bottom line. I have a lot of respect for our fantasy wizard, Matthew Berry. This morning I saw him on SportsCenter saying, hey, I'm not going to drop Cam in my fantasy quarterback rankings. I have him 12th. I'm going to keep him right there around that 12th spot, because Cam can do it with his legs, and it's not like he had a dynamic group of receivers to start with. So, again, Stephen A., I don't know what – is that a devastating blow? I'm going to bet on Matt Berry saying he's still the 12th-ranked fantasy quarterback, so that's not devastating to me. I think they'll be about what they always have been, where they rely mostly on defense and running game, which heavily includes Cam's running game.
Well, keep in mind, Funches can play. And I'm not saying that Kelvin Benjamin is devastating just because you lost Kelvin Benjamin. I'm looking at the weapons that Cam Newton has around him. Back in the day, Skip, they had D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart.
Yeah.
Now they just have Jonathan Stewart because D'Angelo Williams is in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Jonathan Stewart has missed 20 games over the last 3 years. That's why he was splitting carries. Now that the primary workload is going to be placed in his shoulders. Well, if you were missing 20 games over the last 3 years, which is an average of more than 6 a season, if you were missing those games when you were splitting carries, how are you going to do now that the workload is primarily on your shoulders? And so when I look at it from that perspective, again, you need a bevy of weapons, and I don't know if they have it. That's my concern about Carolina right now, not to mention the fact that even though I have mad respect for Ron Rivera as a defensive mind, I don't think he's a great coach offensively.
Yeah.
I think some of the limitations that Cam Newton has is because Ron Rivera is his head coach. I think he needs a more offensive-minded coach, to be quite honest with you, somebody who can teach him a few things. With all of that being said, I just think he's at a decided disadvantage, and he's being asked to do a lot more than he should be asked to do. And I think it's going to end up working against him.
That is fair. I don't think it got all that much worse, but I agree with your overall premise. He's been asked to do a whole lot.
If they do try to pick someone up, you guys mentioned Reggie Wayne's available, some other notable wide receivers, Wes Welker, Brandon Lloyd, Donnie Avery, Santana Moss, and Robert Meacham. But let's spin this forward now. The NFC South is always up for grabs. Last year, the Panthers were the first team in NFC South history to win the division in back-to-back seasons. So what are the chances, Skip, that Carolina can three-peat here as division champs with this loss?
I don't love their chances this time, Stephen A., for all the reasons you just so eloquently stated. Carolina won by default last year at 7-8-1. You mentioned their defense. In yards allowed, they were the 10th ranked NFL defense, just in yards, not in points, but in yards, which was decent enough, I think, to get them just barely over the top in the worst division, I think, in pro football. Last year, New Orleans was 7-9. We've got the Sean Payton interview now running on SportsCenter, in which he says Drew Brees was hurt last year, had a torn oblique muscle, couldn't practice enough. He's 100% healthy this year. Does that put New Orleans back over the top, to the top of the division? I don't think so, because their defense ranked 31st last year in yards allowed, and I don't know that it's going to be a whole lot better. Atlanta has the new coach in Dan Quinn, but they were 6-10 last year. They ranked 32nd in overall yards allowed last year. I don't know if they're going to be significantly better, which brings me to the team I'm most intrigued by, the Tampa Bay Bucks with a rookie quarterback. I'm going to give them a real shot to win this division this year, and you can call me crazy if you want, but with Lovie Smith coaching this team, it has to be better, way better than 2-14, because there's way too much talent here. You know Vincent Jackson, you know Mike Evans, you got the two big stud receivers to throw to. I'm a big Doug Martin fan. He was nicked up last year. He still played, what was it, 11 games. But he wasn't himself. The offensive line has been nicked and knacked and beaten up, and it's still not great. But on defense, you got three studs to build around. You got Gerald McCoy, who's been on this show before. You got Levante David, they just gave a big new contract to. These are Pro Bowl caliber defenders. And Altron Werner is a stud at cornerback. They have to be better. Jameis Winston, for all of his flaws and all the interceptions he threw last year in college, and for the poor plays that he made early in his very first NFL preseason game last week, he was 26-1 in college. 26-1. The kid is a winner. The kid has not a good mind. He has a great quarterback IQ mind. And I think he's going to adapt quickly. He may get off to a little bit of a slow start, but I think he will finish strongly even in his rookie year, which is why I am giving Tampa Bay to be the surprise team of the NFL this year.
I like that bold prediction. Stephen A., since we're giving out predictions, who do you have winning the NFC South?
You know what? If I had to pick today, I reserve the right to change my mind, but I'm thinking the Atlanta Falcons.
Wow. That might be bolder than mine.
Listen, yeah, I think so. I mean, you look at Quinn, obviously he's coming from the Legion of Boom in Seattle. I'm going to give him a lot of credit for what their defense was able to do over the last couple of years and what he was able to establish there. And I'm going to say they're not going to be the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL this time around. I think that they're going to be ready to roll. That's number one. Number two, I think that when you look at them offensively, listen, we have questions about whether Matt Ryan deserves to be in the top 10 or whatever, but the mere fact that there's a question mark means that the brother can play a little bit. He's got a $103.75 million contract for a reason. So when I look at Matt Ryan, I say to myself, Julio Jones, fresh off a 1,500-yard season, Roddy White, who caught 80 receptions last year for right under 1,000 yards, those two, with Devontae Freeman expected to do some things this year coming out of the backfield, I'm going to sit there and look at Atlanta, and I'm going to say they got a shot. Remember, the division winner last year was 7-8-1. As far as I'm concerned, the entire division is a crapshoot. I think it's up for grabs. And I say, why not Atlanta with Julio Jones and Roddy White? If they can stay healthy, okay, I think Matt Ryan has his targets, and I think he'll be able to do some damage.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Andrew Luck's 16 interceptions in 2014 ranks 6th most in the league, and a Football Outsiders article on ESPN.com analyzes that Luck could actually have worse interception numbers. Our adjusted interceptions metric removes fluky INTs, Hail Mary throws, drop passes, and adds in dropped INTs and picks broken up by the offensive player. And when you look at Luck's first three seasons, through that prism, it's clear he's been lucky to not throw more picks in his first 3 seasons. His 21 adjusted INTs were the 2nd worst mark in the league, this after having the worst mark in the league during his rookie season. And for some perspective, the other 5 top-tier quarterbacks, Rodgers, Brady, Big Ben, Breeze, and Peyton, had an average of 14 adjusted INTs in 2014. Skip, that was a novel I just read you, but I know you've got it all. What do you make of this?
Just let's get to the bottom line here. Andrew was lucky. That's the punchline to this. He should have had far more interceptions in each of his 3 seasons. And I want to thank Football Outsiders for having the guts to look harder and go against the grain and finally give me some film breakdown stats to back up my contention, which is one of my pet peeves on this show. The premature coronation of Andrew Luck drives me nuts. I've never said he's going to be a bust because he's clearly far, far, far from a bust. But he's clearly not a first ballot Luck Hall of Famer, because that's all I ever hear from this guy and through that camera right there and everybody else on this network. Andrew Luck, he's Andrew Luck. And I say, just show me. Just show me, because I do look harder, because I was an RG3 fan, and RG3 did outplay him his rookie year when RG3 had 20 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, and was the offensive rookie of the year. But now I have some ammunition, Mr. Smith, and I look at Andrew Luck's interceptions 2 years ago. They were 18 on paper, but they could have been 30. Maybe they should have been 30, given dropped interceptions, near interceptions. Last year, his 16 interceptions could have been 21. That would have made him 2nd worst in the National Football League if, in fact, those balls had been caught. I look at turnovers, because this man has been a turnover machine. His rookie year, his combined turnovers, interceptions, and lost fumbles, 2nd only to the butt fumble artist who used to be Mark Sanchez. Last year, just this last year, his 3rd year in the league, Andrew Luck's combined turnovers were 2nd only to your favorite quarterback, Jay Cutler. Really? And he's a first ballot Luck Hall of Famer? Premature coronation. I continue to ask you, what's he done in the postseason, in which he is now 3-3 when the money is really on the line? 9 touchdowns to 12 interceptions in the postseason, completing only 56.5% of his passes? You might call that Tebow-esque, and you might be right about that. 56.5% of his passes, and of course that nightmare game, the Deflategate game at Foxborough, his QBR was 26.4 in that game on that Saturday night, which is on a scale of 0 to 100, 26.4. Premature coronation. I could go on and on with these stats, but I think I'm seeing an early turnover machine. He's just a kid. I get that. And they pointed out that his attempts per game, his average attempts per game, 37.8, is now 2nd most in NFL history at this moment through 3 years. Well, they're asking him to do too much. They're trying to make him into a first ballot Hall of Famer. They're treating him like one now. Maybe this year with Frank Gore, they can get back to running the football a little bit more. Maybe with Andre Johnson, they throw a few more higher percentage possession type passes. I don't know, but so far, not so good for Andrew Luck, because you cannot turn the ball over that much and be that successful in this league.
You know what? Sometimes you make me sick, because I see how slick you can be.
Mm-hmm.
What this is really about harkens back to Peyton Manning leaving for Denver. Irsay making the decision that rather than bet on the next 3 to 5 years, I'm going to bet on the next 15 to 20 with this kid coming out of Stanford, and how you obviously was against that decision, because this is a win
years. The next 3 years.
Listen,
and I was right about that.
I said 3 to 5.
Okay.
I'm giving it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Skip. I apologize. Is Peyton Manning has he won any Super Bowls in Denver yet? I don't know. I may be wrong. I don't recall. Yeah. I don't recall it got to one. What happened that afternoon? Don't get me started. The point that I'm trying to make to you, the point that I'm trying to make to you is that, guess what? There's no Super Bowl championship. At the end of the day, Peyton Manning has just as many Super Bowls as Andrew Luck since Andrew Luck came into the National Football League. It's point number one. Point number two, Andrew Luck has been sacked 100 times in his first 3 years in Indianapolis. Now, granted, it was 41, I think it was 41 the first year, 32 the second year, just 27 last year. So it's going in the right direction, but he's been sacked 100 times in his first 3 seasons as an NFL quarterback, okay? Because we all know that at least at some point, the Indianapolis Colts offensive line was suspect. Their running game was virtually non-existent, and Andrew Luck had to drop back the pass, and throw the football and fling the football because their defense wasn't elite either. Well, over the last 3 years, when we talked about elite defenses in the NFL, the Indianapolis Colts were not in that conversation. So if the Indianapolis Colts weren't in the conversation for their stout defense, if they weren't in the conversation because of a stout running game, if their offensive line was nowhere in the vicinity of being compared to the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles of the world or any other respectable offensive line like San Francisco and others, basically what it came down to was Andrew Luck, the Indianapolis Colts, rode and died with this brother and what he did. The ball was in his hands. What does that mean? You're going to have to take chances. And following up, being the successor to the great Peyton Manning, I applaud Andrew Luck for going out there, being as brave as he is, as a gunslinger, trying to go for it. So what does he do his first 3 years? 11 wins. What does he do his first 3 years? 3 postseason appearances. Wild card berth first year. Divisional playoff appearance the second year. AFC Championship game appearance his third year. Progressive steps along the way. And now the Indianapolis Colts finally went out, got Frank Gore, who they can rely on because he was averaging about 4 yards a carry for the San Francisco Giants, and that's pretty much what he's done throughout his career. Getting an experienced dude like Andre Johnson, even though I would like to still see Reggie Wayne back there with T.Y. Hilton and Andre Johnson in my perfect world, but that's neither here nor there. All I'm saying is Andrew Luck is not perfect. There is no question that there were interceptions that he could have had, just like there are other quarterbacks who got lucky where things could have been intercepted and it didn't end up being that way, including Tony Romo, including Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and others. It happens when you throw the football a lot. But in the end, Andrew Luck is big time because when you project what this brother is capable of based on the eye test and beyond, even with the 16 interceptions, he led the league with 40 touchdown passes. This brother is a big-time ball player. He's young. He's got a lot of growing to do. He's going to make mistakes. There is no question. But I also think there is no question that when his career is all said and done, in the next 15 to 17 years, because to me, he could do about 20 years in this league, Andrew Luck will be a Hall of Famer, and he will be a champion. Can you say that about RG3?
Well, he got hurt. Are we discounting that?
You know what? Hold on. You know why? You know what? I'm not discounting it for RG3's purposes.
Yeah.
But I will discount it for Andrew Luck's purposes. You know why? Because those tree trunks for legs that Andrew Luck has. The brother's a football player. He's a big boy. And I tried to tell you that factors into the equation. His durability. He can take hits. He can take punishment. He's still athletic. He's got tree trunks for legs. He's got a rifle arm. He's got an athletic, big NFL body. This brother is somebody that you can rely upon for years to come. We're wondering whether RG3 is going to last month to month.
And this big, strong brother has been a fumbling machine in the pocket because he holds the football too long and coughs it here and coughs it there. Second most turnovers last year to Jay Cutler.
Really?
Oh, let's hold the Hall of Fame ceremony right here, right now, and just put him in. After that, seriously?
No, not at all. he doesn't deserve it if it's today. See, you change the narrative because it fits your argument. But the fact of the matter is, when people talk about Andrew Luck in the fashion that you accuse us of, we're saying when all is said and done, that's what nobody's going to look at Andrew Luck right now and say he's a Hall of Famer. Of course he's got to play better. But for 3 years in the league, there ain't too many people that have been more impressive than this kid. Okay. And you need to show him more respect.
No, I refuse until he shows me more.
Of course you do. Of course you do, because it doesn't fit your narrative. No. I mean, because to give him respect, you'd have to be admitting that you were wrong about all these
numbers. They're not a narrative. They're the facts.
Since when do you care?
Sweep them under the
you
carpet.
Throw out stats when you want to.
I knew you would.
Pick stats when you want to. You throw them out when you want to. You're moody. You're moody with it. Please.
Moody?
Andrew Luck.
I hang right in.
Nothing to say about it. Andrew Luck right now is the top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Nobody's disputing that. 3 years in the league, top 10.
Yeah, I'll put him in the top 10. I won't put him in the top 5.
Damn
and
right
I will not back off my contention going back 4 years ago that the Indianapolis Colts would have had a better chance to win the Super Bowl over the next 3 years after Peyton went to Denver. And they shoot him, pushed him out the back door in Indianapolis. They would have had a better chance to win the Super Bowl. A lot of people thought Peyton was shot. I did not. And was I right?
Wait a minute.
The first 2 years in Denver, he had not been MVP?
I didn't think he was shot. Stop lying. Stop lying. I didn't think Peyton Manning was shot. That is not the argument. You're not going to sit up here and get away with lying to America like you usually try to do. You were making the argument that it was better to go with Peyton Manning for 3 years than go with Andrew Luck for the next 20. I said go with him for the next 20. We all knew that he wasn't going to be better than Peyton Manning the first 3 years. What we were saying is, do you pick 3 years or do you pick 20? That was the argument. Don't change this. Nobody said he was going to be better than Peyton Manning over those 3 years. Nobody said that.
I'd have to check the tape on you, but I know a whole lot of people on this network.
Of course you got to check the tape.
Yeah, I would, because I don't think you were
you got to check the tape.
on Peyton's chances coming off
you were
all
the
the neck
if you were on the oath, you'd be arrested right now and held in contempt for perjury because you're lying.
I'd bail you out.
That was the argument. 3 years to 20.
You know what?
Nobody said he was better than Peyton Manning.
I might have to take you to court to clear my good
perjury charges right now.
Yeah, I'm a liar.
You're just trying to be slick.
Legacy on the line. We can all agree. We can all agree. The other phases of the game need to step up to take the pressure.
The audience knows who won that. It's okay.
All you got.
Okay. Yeah.
He's got just as many rings as Peyton Manning over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Gentlemen, we cool?
Both of them got the same amount of Super Bowl titles. But Andrew Luck gonna be around here a decade from now. Where's Peyton gonna be? He might be on TV with me and you.
Yeah.
I hope he is. He's good.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so to take the pressure off Andrew Luck, obviously he needs the line to step up the running game and the defense, and obviously that's why they brought in Frank Gore. He should fit in nicely into Pep Hamilton's offense. And also, let's not forget the 2 pieces they added on defense there on the D-line, Kendall Langford and Trent Cole. Skip is not excited about either. Listen, I think Andrew Luck's legit. I think he just needs the rest of the team to step
you're
up.
Going out on a big limb.
I'm just telling you to take the pressure off him. In a Sports Illustrated profile of Brian Cashman, the Yankees GM revisits the contentious contract negotiations with Derek Jeter in 2010. Jeter asked Cashman whom he would rather have at shortstop, and he responded by telling him Troy Tulowitzki. Quote, "We're not paying extra money for popularity, we're paying for performance." Cashman called Jeter the greatest player I will have ever had, but the GM also told SI that he grew impatient with Jeter's diva qualities and enjoyed being able to turn down some of his requests. The two sides eventually agreed upon a 3-year, $51 million deal. Ironically, around that same time, Tulo and the Rockies came to terms on a very lucrative extension as well. Stephen A., it's your guy, your thoughts.
I know this is 5 years ago, but I almost want to go to Yankee Stadium myself and fire Brian Cashman. I mean, this blasphemy? I mean, is this, you going to say that to Derek Jeter? I mean, really? In all seriousness, Troy Tulowitzki can really, really play. And in the aftermath of that, he batted like .302 with 105 RBIs and 30 home runs. Jeter's no home run hitter. So from a numbers perspective, statistical statistically speaking, we understand that you can make the argument that you can get somebody who can do more for you than Derek Jeter from a numbers perspective. The crime in Brian Cashman acknowledging what he acknowledged, in all seriousness, because I like Brian Cashman. I don't agree with what he said to Derek Jeter, but I like him. But here's where it's criminal what he said. Anybody that's in a clubhouse know it is rare that you have somebody that adds an element to a locker room that ultimately lends itself towards championships. There's a whole bunch of cats smacking 25 plus home runs and 80, 90 plus RBIs every year that never win a damn thing. They're never anywhere, but they put up their numbers. But when you incorporate them into a winning situation, or a situation that mandates and requires winning, like the Yankee base does in the Bronx, New York, sometimes dudes wither beneath all of that. That wasn't Derek Jeter. One of the reasons why Derek Jeter is such an iconic figure, it's not just because he's a 5-time champion or a 14-time All-Star. It's because he is who he is, and we know that's a component that led to those 5 championships, that led to those 14 All-Star appearances. It's showing up and producing in big moments. It's really capturing the totality of a moment and responding to the challenge that lies before you in the most pressurized situations. That's what Jeter does. It's also making sure that you galvanize the troops around you and that they maximize their potential. It's not just about what you do. It's about what you lead others to do as well. So if you're just looking at numbers, certainly Brian Cashman has a right to do that, particularly the way George Steinbrenner, God rest his soul, the former owner for the New York Yankees, used to just shatter their farm system and just spend money to get high-priced free agents and others to come to New York. The flip side is that you have to have the foresight, not just hindsight, but the foresight, not just to see what somebody has done, but what they're still capable of doing as you move into a different era. So I think it was just a negotiating position on the part of Cashman. They did ultimately reach an agreement. Cashman didn't want to be bullied by the popularity of a Derek Jeter. But in the end, let's be serious here. If you're just looking at numbers, there's a few people that you can put ahead of Derek Jeter, Skip. I won't deny that. But Derek Jeter was never measured by just numbers. He was measured by championships. He was measured by culture, what you established as a member of the New York Yankees. And when you consider the great tradition of this franchise and what it established, long before Derek Jeter arrived, he was one that assisted into bringing it into the new millennium because he was an individual that obviously, facilitated excellence. And for the most part, they achieved it.
Okay, I hear everything you just said. I'm also going to take these Cashman quotes very seriously. No kidding here. All kidding aside. I must admit, I do get occasionally annoyed with your ongoing hero worshiping of Derek Jeter, your ongoing idolatry that you display often on this show of Derek Jeter. But come on, Derek Jeter was all-time great, especially when it really mattered in the postseason. What he did was just astonishing with the tools he had to work with. You want to talk about the all-time greatest overachiever because he didn't have the most this or that, didn't have the biggest arm or the most speed or the most power. Was he great? Yeah, he was great. Were his intangibles off the charts? Yes, they were. I'm with you on all the above. I also have great respect for a Brian Cashman continuing to be successful in the New York market and continuing to not only deal with, but to almost manage the New York media, which is extremely difficult to do. Which brings me to my question here. And I will admit to you, I chuckled to myself when I read these quotes in Sports Illustrated that Brian has given to Sports Illustrated for their report, or their story on him. But my first thought was, well, finally the truth comes out. But why did Brian Cashman want the truth to be told about all this? I don't know. What purpose does it serve now, looking back? What good does it do the New York Yankees? What good does it do Brian Cashman to take shots at the icon in the rearview mirror? you know, if he had stepped up and said these things as they were happening, that would have had impact. I mean, well, go ahead.
I can only think of two possibilities. I do not know, first of all, but I can only think of two possibilities. One is that Brian Cashman wanted to show his toughness in being a leader as an executive for the New York Yankees as it pertains to contract negotiations, etc. The other is it comes across as him saying, look, I respect Derek Jeter too, but I sort of want the world to know he isn't, you know, the way y'all think he is.
That's right. That's how I saw it. I agree with you. Look, it's no shock to me. It's hard to argue with his stance that he told Derek Jeter, hit him, as the agent said, right between the eyes, I would rather have Troy Tulowitzki. This is going back 3 years ago. Well, who could argue with that, as Derek Jeter was age 37? And he did have, as you point out, he had the one last hurrah year in 2012 when he led the league in hits. That was phenomenal. But then he got hurt the next year, and then that last year at age 40, it wasn't pretty. But the quotes that jumped off the page to me were that Brian Cashman took great pleasure in denying Derek Jeter's diva requests. Well, now that's news. That's diva requests? Wow. Because I don't think the public at large would see Derek Jeter as a diva. I don't know, just little quotes that he wanted through his last couple of years, and Cashman took pleasure in saying no. Well, that's news, man. That's shocking, and that's the part that I was surprised that Brian Cashman would want made public.
Well, the other part about it, Skip, is that usually Brian Cashman is supposed to be talking to your agent. Sounds to me like he was saying things that he told Derek Jeter to his face.
Yep.
So why was there a face-to-face confrontation? It seems to me like something was wrong with that picture. In the end, Derek Jeter may have been a diva. I don't know. He doesn't seem that way to me, I can tell you that. But we do have to say to ourselves, if there are individuals who've earned diva status, wouldn't Derek Jeter apply? At some point in time, don't your years of service and what you do matter to an organization? If you're a multi-billion-dollar establishment, and say somebody wants a car ride to and from the stadium, say they want extra tickets or something like, you know, when we talk about diva-style things, it may be something along those lines. Is that really too much to ask for a guy who contributed in filling the seats for years? I don't think so.
I don't know. I don't know much about diva behavior because I've never worked with the diva before.
Oh, me either.
Yeah, I
don't know
wouldn't
any
know.
of them.
Yeah.
Neither would I.
If Tom Brady and Roger Goodell can't settle in the coming days, Judge Richard Berman wants them back in court August 31st and hopes to rule by September 4th. Although he told the sides not to hold him to that date, it's a quick turnaround, which would be just 6 days before the Patriots season opener. Brady's suspension would then begin the following day, September 5th, according to our Sal Palantonio. Now we bring in one of Brady's former teammates, friend of the program, ESPN NFL analyst, Damon Woody. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Let's get right to it. What should Brady do?
I think he should continue to fight. I mean, listen, we're talking about your last name. Talk about your legacy here. But this is something that he's worked and crafted over a long period of time. And for him to, quote unquote, potentially settle or give up on it,
Or admit guilt.
or admit guilt, I mean, that would be a huge mark on his legacy. You look at the court case what Judge Berman has mentioned in his last court hearing. There's a lot of question marks. A lot of things that he attacked the NFL on. So if you're Brady, you're feeling momentum right now. You're feeling pretty good about your case, the potential outcome of the case. Even if you lose, people still want to say you went down swinging and fighting against the NFL. I think in the end that will still be a win for Brady as far as his legacy is concerned.
I like it. What do you think, Stephen A?
Fair enough, but what the hell happened to your position on Tom Brady when this first went down?
Nothing happened to it. Nothing happened to it. I'm just being real about it right now.
Well, I know you're being real about it. I'm not questioning your realness. I'm asking you, what happened to your position? You were on Sports Center.
Right.
When the ruling came down, and
Right.
you said you were disappointed in Tom Brady.
Okay.
You said that you
point.
felt he was guilty. So
I still do. You asked me if I'm in Brady's shoes, what would I do? And I said I would continue to fight. I would fight it.
Okay. So you're saying you would continue to fight even though you believe that he's guilty?
Yeah. I mean, listen, if I'm in that man's shoes, why not? Why not continue to, why not fight it?
Okay. Well, here's my thing. Tom Brady, I personally believe he shouldn't be suspended. I personally believe this is much ado about nothing. I can't believe it has lasted this long. All of those things are true. But to me, I would stop short of if I'm Tom Brady, of just admitting that I lied. So I get that argument. And I don't totally disagree with you and Skip on that. But if you are willing to admit you were uncooperative, then you played a role in the NFL drawing the conclusion that they've drawn. And if that's the case, what level of culpability do you deserve for that? That's where we all have to, I don't know how we get to a point where a settlement is reached. I personally don't understand for the life of me why the NFL is insisting that Tom Brady admits guilt in all of this. Listen, you want the brother suspended. As long as there's a suspension that takes place, I think it's absolutely foolish and petty for the NFL to insist that he admits guilt. But so long as he gets a suspension. Now, to me, if he gets the suspension and it's acknowledging that he was uncooperative, I think that should be enough, and I don't think it should be anything to fight about after that. Because if you're Tom Brady, you have to at some point acknowledge you brought all of this on yourself. At least be willing to admit, hey, if I had acted better and a bit more cooperative, it may not have gotten to this point. At least be willing to admit that. As long as he's willing to admit that, as far as I'm concerned, it should be over. But who knows? I mean, right now, I'm exhausted talking about it, to be quite honest. I'm disgusted with it. I just think it's petty. I think it's petty. Deflated footballs, 8 months? 8 months because of deflated footballs? I mean, it's ridiculous. But it is what it is.
Okay, but Stephen A., you know and I know this has become so much bigger than deflated footballs. You know and I know this is about the power of the owners versus the players. Because one player, the superstar quarterback of the New England Patriots, last year's Super Bowl MVP, is willing to fight this to the legal death to try to take down the commissioner and his integrity and credibility, to question those to the point that you take him down, and to your point, maybe open Pandora's box in court, where you say, uh-oh, the owners are now very vulnerable in court in ways they've never been before. It's way beyond, was the ball this much or this much? That's what's happening. But let me bring it back. Okay, go ahead. Sure. Okay. Go ahead. Back to Mr. Woody. Okay, you stand by your position. You believe he had some guilt in this. Correct. Even though we have no smoking gun, we have, as Judge Berman has concluded, no direct evidence. It seems like the whole process was very unfair to Tom Brady, and we have as Judge Berman called it, the quantum leap from the Welch report to all of a sudden a 4-game suspension for what exactly? Non-cooperation? It doesn't make sense to Judge Berman. At least he's shooting holes in the NFL's case. Yet you stand by your position that you believe he was guilty. Why?
Because I think, the lack of cooperation. I think, the destruction of the cell phone. To me, I go off common sense. My antennas are up as far as that's concerned. Why would you destroy your cell phone right in the meat of the investigation, when they're about to, interview or need certain information off of the cell phone? You kept your prior cell phone, but you destroyed the one that the league was looking at. That is okay. That's something I just can't get over. Right?
Okay, I get that. But in fairness to Tom Brady, you realize his agent told him before he was interrogated by the Wells people that your cell phone cannot come into play here via the NFLPA. You cannot, that they cannot invade your right to privacy, so that will never become an issue. So that's all that he knew at that point, and they already had all of his texts, because it takes two to text, from Jastrzemski, the equipment manager, who they had his cell phone. They had the other McNally's cell phone. So anything Brady had texted to either of those guys, they had in their possession, and there was no smoking gun. So,
what sense can you make of the whole destruction of the cell phone? What sense can you make of it?
I think we were told that Don Yee told him.
That's what I just said. Yeah, no, they said, he told him before, you don't have to worry about it. And then Brady said, just recurringly, I often I don't destroy it, I just change cell phones.
But I just find that the timetable suspicious. Suspicious. Yeah. Right in the middle of the investigation, all of a sudden you destroy it. To me, it's just, I give a lot of pause to that right there.
Okay. Have you heard anything internally from people you know around the Patriots who have suspicions of this?
No.
Of what Tom knew or didn't know?
No.
Okay. Just checking for the record. Okay, so you're just going on your own instincts. You think he was more than generally aware of what was happening to the footballs?
I think so.
Okay.
And from what we understand,
brought it on himself, man.
The owners are split
here. Brought it on himself, and that's and here's the bottom line. Listen, we constantly sit here. If a guy gets in trouble off the field, whether it's speeding at 143 miles per hour with a 12-year-old in the car, whether it's domestic abuse, domestic violence, whether it's child abuse or whatever the case may be, whether it is dudes that can't stay off the weed, it doesn't matter. There are so many issues that we get into that we use it as a teachable moment so guys moving forward won't make the same mistake. Well, in this case, why can't we do that? When it comes to Tom Brady, whether it was you lying, covering up for the Patriots organization, or just being aloof and dismissive because you were a puppet following the advice of the Players Association and their high-priced Michael Jordan-style lawyer with the innumerable billable hours and Jeffrey Kessler, the bottom line is that you came across as uncooperative to a league where Roger Goodell has dominion. And they're challenging that right now. Now, you can challenge it, and if you win, good for you. Chances are, however, you'll lose. You have to know this. You have to anticipate it. And when the bosses call you and they tell you this is serious business, you need to step up and handle this as honestly and candidly and as forthcomingly as you possibly can. You have an obligation to do that. And Tom Brady didn't do that. So in the end, he is somewhat culpable for where we are today. He's not an innocent bystander in all of this. Okay? He just isn't.
You have forced me to reply one last time to your position. I think he was an innocent bystander. And I believe that through the Wells interrogation, he was astounded that he was being accused of something he had zero knowledge of. And he was shocked that he was becoming the fall guy for a campaign to get the Patriots for both Spygate and Deflategate. He became the fall guy.
Will you open your eyes? Will you open your eyes? Did you not just finish saying a few minutes ago that Bill Belichick threw him under the bus? The next day, ask my quarterback. I don't have anything to do with that. So what was he blind to? What was he blind to? If Bill Belichick comes out less than 24 hours after an AFC Championship game win and says, don't ask me about that, I don't know anything about that, ask my quarterback, then shouldn't it have been clear? Is Tom Brady suddenly dumb? He can't see the forest from the trees? He couldn't see from that moment that he was being hung out to dry?
I think he's a little
naive. You're going to put all of this on Roger Goodell and Troy Vincent?
I think he's a good guy.
A little naive? Really? You're going to really sit up there and say that?
Yeah,
really?
I'm going to sit up here and say it because what have you said on this show numerous times? In the end, this is about protecting who in the organization? The head coach. Am I right about that? Do I think the head coach had knowledge of deflating football?
Wait a minute. Don't change the narrative. I asked you a question. Did you not say that Belichick threw him under the bus? Yeah. Less than 24 hours. So what was the naivete? Where was the naivete then? From that moment forward, you knew they were coming for you because Belichick said he had nothing to do with it. And then the Wells investigation investigation report came out, and they exonerated Belichick and his staff. Who else was left? Who was left?
Okay, and then what did I tell you 2 days after the Wells report? That 3 people close to Tom Brady had told me he is now declaring war on the commission. Didn't I tell you that? Sitting right here? And what's happened? Not only has he fought the war through court, he's winning. As Damien just said, that is not what I said.
First of all, don't give me some winning during the court, because we don't know that, number one. And number two, what I said was your coach threw you under the bus. So from the moment he threw you under the bus, according to Skip Bayless, how was he naive to what was going on then?
Well, he was up to that point. Yeah. I mean,
it was less than 24 hours after the game.
Yeah. Okay, well, they were all
that means he knew from that moment it was going to be on him.
But Bob Kraft was defending Tom Brady at that point, and Brady was like, I don't know anything about it.
He was laughing about it.
No,
go ahead,
later.
That's what you do. Because when it comes to your favorites, you got blinders on. You don't want to see. You don't want to see what he did. Oh, no, he's innocent. He didn't know.
Okay,
this is what he said, Damien. Molly. Oh, Tom Brady didn't know. I mean, Bill Belichick didn't do anything.
Speaking of memory loss, you're the guy who just last week finally said, you know what? I don't think Tom Brady knew anything about this. You told me that on this show.
I said that I don't believe that he had the footballs deflated. My point to you is that from the moment Bill Belichick threw him under the bus, it was clear that he was going to be a target. That's a different discussion. It was clear he was going to be a target. So how you going to sit up there and say he was naive to what was potentially transpiring once Bill Belichick acknowledges, I got nothing to do with this, you need to ask my quarterback.
Well,
that way it wasn't clear that he was in the hot seat?
No, he had his owner on his side, and then all of a sudden his owner sold him out and took all the punishment.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt, frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the mortgage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
LeBron James may be the king, but he isn't the favorite among NBA rookies. This year's rookie class voted Kevin Durant and Kobe Bryant as its favorite players. Durant won the vote at 21%, edging out Bryant at 18% in an annual survey of rookies conducted by NBA.com. LeBron James finished third at 15%, and reigning league MVP and NBA champion Stephen Curry tied for fourth with D. Wade, each earning 9% of the vote. Interesting poll here. Stephen A., what does this tell you about the rookies?
Well, listen, I think that, the rookies have an appreciation for the greatness of LeBron James. It can't be denied. But when you look at Kevin Durant, you see what a sniper he is from long range. When you look at a guy like Kobe, you see the assassin's mentality that he has. And I think those two components are a bit more attractive than the entire arsenal that LeBron James brings brings to the table for himself. And then, to me, I would have liked to have seen Steph Curry on that list, because I think Steph Curry is the best marksman in the game today. And of course, you see guys that they look at Dwayne Wade and they fantasize about Dwayne Wade when healthy, because Dwayne Wade when healthy is lethal himself. And you also have to take into account the fact that folks have tired of LeBron James in this respect. We know about his greatness. His greatness is undeniable. But at the same time, they hear it so much, and they're not oblivious to the fact that he does have 4 NBA Finals losses on his resume. And so when you look at it from that perspective, there are guys that are going to feel like, well, we understand and we got mad respect for him. He's the best in the game. But at the same time, there are others to like just as well, if not more, legitimately so. And I get where they're coming from.
But, Stephen A., in the end, the rookie's appreciation of LeBron James can be denied a little bit, because I got to tell you, I was surprised by this. I would have bet against this, because the two players who received the most votes, KD and Kobe, didn't play last year. So they were kind of out of sight, out of mind. KD played some, obviously. But you know, LeBron James, as you always say, and I do not disagree with, is the best player on the planet. He is the most popular player on the planet as far as the NBA goes. I think. I could be wrong about that. Yet here's the group of incoming rookie stars, if you will. They were college stars, obviously. And they're not paying that much respect to LeBron because 21% of the vote went to Kevin Durant. I get what you say, long-range sniper and all the above, and Kobe just on his legacy greatness. I get that at 18. But I'm surprised, and I'm with you on your perception of maybe they're just tired of LeBron. Maybe they see too many LeBron commercials, although Kevin rivals them because every time I turn on my TV, I see Kevin Durant another commercial. So in the big, you know, but like you say, he's lost 4 finals. He's been in 6 of the last 9, but he's lost. So does that diminish their respect? I'm talking about just a little bit because he did get 15% of the votes. But go ahead.
Well, I just think that when I say they're tired of him, it's not his fault. I think the media assists in bringing you up and helping to diminish you as well, because it can be an overload. You can saturate the market, so to speak, you know, sometimes. And I think that that's what has happened to LeBron James. There's a lot of great players in the NBA. LeBron James, you have to remember, is a freak of nature. One of the things that you loved about Allen Iverson when he was tearing up the league was the fact that you ran into him. Hell, he was looking you eye to eye. You were his height. You were his size. He wasn't 6'8", 6'9", 250, a locomotive coming after you. He wasn't a freak of nature. He just looked like any old dude walking down the street. And then you get on a basketball court and see him in action, and you're like, my God, this brother's sensational. You look at Kevin Durant, yeah, nobody's, you know, too many people ain't that long, you know, that slim. But look at what he does. I mean, this brother can pull up from 30. You look at Kobe. He's a 5-time champion, and he's heartless on the court. He's ruthless in trying to defeat you. Plus, there's the allure of what's he going to do for his swan song since this is supposed to be his last season. That's a question mark. So they look at it from that perspective. There are compelling reasons to look at somebody other than LeBron, but it's not really a knock against LeBron. It's just that he's so conspicuous. He's so in everybody's face. And most of the time for very, very good reasons because it's well earned. And by the way, you want to take a moment, Skip, to give this brother props to his foundation. He's spending like $41 million on giving local kids in Akron a full 4-year scholarship. I mean, LeBron James is doing some absolutely wonderful and spectacular things. But it doesn't negate the fact that every time you turn around, when it comes to basketball, you're hearing about LeBron. And this could be rookies' ways of saying, we'd like to hear about somebody else because we believe other people need to deserve to be heard about too.
Okay, and I got it. And LeBron does great things off the court, but that's not factoring in enough to these kids to say, I love him, he's my favorite because of what he does on the court and off the court. They're saying, nah, again, a majority saying, I'll take KD, or give me Kobe. And LeBron got 15% of the vote. Interesting. So would you move quickly with me to one other category? Because I want your response to this.
Sure.
When the kids were asked, the incoming rookies, which of you, which one would you vote for of the incoming rookies to have the best career? Best career. Jahlil Okafor got 24% of the vote over my guy, Karl Anthony Towns, at 17%. Then it went down to Justin Anderson, Moutier, Stanley Johnson. Sam Decker got 6.9%. Then we've got others receiving votes. And sixth on that list of just getting a couple of votes or whatever is left, sixth on that list is D'Angelo Russell. So the Lakers obviously had the opportunity on a silver platter to take Jahlil Okafor, who got 24% of the votes, best career, and they took D'Angelo Russell, who got the sixth fewest others receiving votes. So the players who usually know who can play because they played against each other all through AAU, obviously, and some in college. They're saying, wait, this guy, Jahlil Okafor, is going to be way better than this guy, D'Angelo Russell. What does that have to say about the Los Angeles Lakers?
What it has to say about the Los Angeles Lakers is that they are not what they used to be, and they damn sure ain't what we thought they should be, because when they drafted D'Angelo Russell, we were under the impression that there was a big man that they were going to get in free agency. So it made perfect sense that they would pass on Jahlil Okafor. But once they couldn't get anybody, once none of the big men wasn't willing to come there, including Greg Monroe from Detroit, then you realize that the Lakers may have made a mistake. Now, I know for a fact that Kobe loved the bit, and D'Angelo Russell gets mad respect from NBA player personnel directors who say that he's 3 steps ahead of everybody in terms of being a floor general and an orchestrator. This dude knows how to run the show, but you got to have cats that actually know how to play and can do something with the ball, because he's going to get it to you. In any event, you also have to take into account the fact that rookies aren't ones who usually are going to show a keen appreciation for a floor general. They get caught up in points and the spectacular play and the athleticism and the highlight reels for SportsCenter and beyond. They don't really get caught up in somebody that's a John Stockton type dude in terms of being a floor general and knowing how to be a floor orchestrator. That's not something that they tend to lean towards favorably. So you can look at it from that perspective and relatively dismiss their criteria and evaluation.
I hear everything you just said. Those are all fair points. But I told you going into the draft, I'm not a huge fan of D'Angelo Russell's. I'm a little bigger fan of Towns than Okafor, but you loved Okafor, and I think the Lakers made a huge, huge mistake here. Even though what you said, if they had their eyes on some free agent big man and it didn't work, I get that. But it really didn't work.
So long as Okafor is healthy, he will be a 20-10 player for a decade.
Not only will we see Manziel and the Browns host the Bills, but also RG3 and the Redskins host the Lions tonight as well. The Browns and Redskins faced off in their first preseason game. Manziel was 7 of 11 for 42 yards and also had a rushing TD, while RG3 was 4 for 8 for 36 yards. So let's forecast the future for these two signal colors. When it is all said and done, Skip Bayless, who will have the better career, Johnny Manziel or RG3?
Man, that is a great question. I don't know who came up with that question. Stephen A. must have come up with it, because it is really difficult for me to answer that question, Mr. Smith. Both these players have had their confidence destroyed, RG3 because of injuries and Johnny Manziel because of egomania leading to alcohol abuse and obviously his rehab. I believe both will wind up being very good NFL quarterbacks. I believe both could become stars. RG3 already was for 1 year. I believe both need to change their venues. I think both need to start fresh with a new team to have the kind of success I'm talking about. But if one or both do get somewhere else, a fresh start elsewhere with a better organization, I'll go RG3 a little over Johnny, just because that's what I thought coming out of college. RG3 obviously has bigger arm, more downfield speed, which I still think he should utilize if he could ever learn to slide. And I just love RG3's mind. I think if he can ever get his confidence back and win back the confidence of this team or a new team, his ceiling is a little higher than Johnny Manziel's. But that doesn't mean that Johnny, who's still only 22 years of age, can't become a very effective, a star caliber quarterback playing very differently in this league. And I keep telling you, Johnny's got a bigger arm than he has been able to show so far with the Browns. And I'm hoping tonight, as I told you last Friday, tonight I want to see Johnny throw it downfield a little bit more. I know what Robert can do because I've seen it at the NFL level. Your thoughts?
Well, I definitely would lean towards RG3 because I think he has better personnel to play with and is dysfunctional as the Redskins appear to be from time to time. Whether it's Allen, Snyder's consistent, Allen's there, Jay Gruden's on the come up, we'll see what he has. But you got Pierre Garçon, Alfred Morris, and Deshaun Jackson there. What does Johnny Manziel have? Josh Gordon is incredibly unreliable, as we all know, because of his substance abuse issues. He's suspended for the year. He's going to be gone. So because of that, what do you have to work with if you're Johnny Manziel and the Cleveland Browns? Running game suspect, passing game suspect, defense. There's a lot to lean on there, though. I think those brothers can do some things. but they're going to be on the field entirely too much because it's going to be very difficult to move the chains offensively. And your coach is a defensive-minded coach as opposed to an offensive-minded coach. So there's a lot working against Johnny Manziel, not to mention what we've alluded to on several occasions in terms of the dysfunctionality that exists within the Browns organization, because you got an owner that doesn't seem to be on the same page as the GM. Same thing with the GM and the coach. Then you got coaches under the coach that wanted Johnny Manziel, even though the head coach may not have necessarily wanted them. And then the owner sits up there and says, take him. After Johnny Manziel text somebody on draft night, talking about what they're going to do, wreak havoc or whatever. It's all over the place. RG3 simply has to get healthy and go out there and play. Johnny Manziel has far more demons to overcome. So I definitely think that RG3 deserves the edge, and I don't think it's even comparable right now.
Okay, but you're talking more about this year, who has the better year. What about the better career? Would you agree with me that they need to change their scenery, go somewhere else?
Well, I think both of them need to change their scenery, but then again, RG3 won't need to if indeed he plays well. Even if Johnny Manziel plays well, he needs to get the hell out of Cleveland. I agree with that.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think in a perfect world, Johnny Manziel would be much happier with a new coach in a new venue. I actually think RG3 wants to stay in Washington. He just needs to play well enough so they don't want him going.
Okay, what is your gut feeling right now, reserving the right to change your opinion on this? How good or not so good will RG3 be this year with the Redskins?
I think he's going to be average. He'll be a little bit better than last year, but it won't be good enough. I think the Redskins are destined for last place in the NFC East. But I'm hoping that it's not primarily due to RG3. I'm hoping it's because of Jay Gruden to some degree and that defense as opposed to RG3.
Yeah, this may be heart over head. I think Robert could have a very good year, like a surprisingly good year. But every time I let my emotions start going there, I remember his head coach does not love him. I don't care what you say. It's hard to overcome a head coach who is also basically the offensive coordinator, takes great pride in installing and operating his offense, Jay Gruden I'm talking about, and to overcome that big obstacle is it's virtually impossible. I think Jay Gruden made it pretty clear last year, and for what I'm hearing on the inside this year, he's just not a fan. Just doesn't like him. Doesn't like his demeanor. Doesn't like his sort of the way he handles himself on and off the field with the media. You made the point yesterday. Robert's a good guy, but you can take issue with how he handles himself, with his ego, with his body language, whatever you want to take issue with. He just rubs Jay Gruden, from what I've heard, the wrong way. And once that's happened, it's hard to convince that guy. It's hard to win him over and still win the locker room over, which you got to re-win because he's still got a long ways to go in that department.
Unless Jay Gruden doesn't have the locker room.
Okay, well that's possible. And yet, in your scenario, that means Jay Gruden would be gone after this year. But he's going to be the coach this year. So does Robert survive this year and get a fresh start with another coach next year in D.C.? Maybe.
Timmy to the rescue. Tebow reportedly broke up a potential fight between third-teamers during the Eagles and Ravens joint practice on Wednesday. Stephen A., your thoughts on Tebow playing peacemaker?
Why are we surprised? I mean, if as far as I'm concerned, Tebow's football's closest version of Gandhi, for crying out loud. He's all about peace and love and can we all get along. That's who Tim Tebow is. I mean, again, nobody's going to refute the fact that he's the nicest guy in the world. I mean, there's no doubt that he doesn't want folks fighting. He wants folks competing and doing the right things the right way and what have you. That's why he's in an NFL locker room. I just hope that he proves that he can throw well enough to make the team.
Oh, another gratuitous shot at Tim Tebow. So here we go. Now you've called in the NFL Gandhi. Well, let me tell you, this is one Gandhi I wouldn't want to mess with. Yeah, he's a nice guy, but trust me on this. If you push this man into a corner, you wouldn't want to mess with him. You wouldn't want to fight him to the death because he would fight you to the death if forced to. So let's not portray him as Gandhi, peace and love. I knew when I saw this headline, I knew that the next thing I would see is there would be a reference to the parting of the Red Sea.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, I get it. He wears his faith on his sleeve because that's what he's supposed to do within his faith. But then, why all these sarcastic references to, why should he bear the brunt of sarcastic references about his religion? It just gets offensive to me. He broke up a fight. Molly said it was between third stringers. By everybody. The Red Sea, that's like a sarcastic shot. Oh, he parted the Red Sea. Really? Okay.
I didn't say that.
I didn't say you said that, but it was
Michael Tanier tweeted it. We have it on the screen right now.
Yes, thank you very much. So, my point is, the guy who can't throw, as I keep hearing day after day after day on this show, is still the biggest lightning rod to me in the National Football League. He's on some adjacent practice field, practicing with what I saw in my report was third or fourth stringers. And he breaks up a fight between third or fourth stringers, and it is national news. Give the guy a break. He played okay the other day. I think he'll play okay when they play again on, I think it's Saturday night. And then we'll see if he can throw. He looked like he could throw pretty well.
We don't have time for that.
If there was ever a time that Tim Tebow deserves a break, it's now. Because he's been out of the game for a couple of years. He's worked very hard. I wish him nothing but the best. But years ago, when you could not let Tebow go, he wasn't going to get a break then. But he deserves it now.
Unlike Tebow here, the Gandhi, I just spread peace and love between you two.
That's impossible.
I give that piece of love between Skip and I. Skip. I'm gonna be nice to that one. Will that make you feel better?
Switzerland right here. See you tomorrow. Football tonight on ESPN. Check it out. Thanks for hanging with us.
The Pirates and Giants are in the heat of the wild card race, but both have their sights set on a division title. Every game is critical in the hunt for October. Saturday at 3 Eastern and Sunday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio.